You're listening to Florida Matters. I'm Matthew Petty. Just a few short months ago, the Tampa Bay Rays appeared to be in striking distance of getting a brand new ballpark in St. Petersburg on the Tropicana Field site. Rays president Matt Silverman, talking during a Rays-Marlins game back in August, said the development around the ballpark would be a miniature city.
The first phase should open with the ballpark, and we're going to create a destination, we're going to create a neighborhood, we're going to create jobs. It's a real jolt to the local economy, and that's one of the great things that we can provide as a baseball team is that injection.
Well, there's been pushback to this plan. Sure, not everyone's happy with St. Pete and Pinellas County chipping in millions of dollars to subsidize the project, but it all seemed to be heading the right way for the Rays, and then this happened.
Eric Waxler right now, and he is in St. Pete. And last I checked, we had 85-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and now they're even higher. Eric?
Yeah, Dennis, we have some unbelievable, something unbelievable to show you. This is Tropicana Field. The roof, a big portion of it, has ripped off.
So that was WFTS Tampa Bay's Eric Waxler on October 9th as Hurricane Milton roared into town. And this was no leaking roof. The storm destroyed the massive fabric top of the stadium, and that led to a cascade of new problems for the talks that were already 18 years in the making. The City Council needs to address the existing stadium. And newly elected Pinellas County commissioners, less friendly to the stadium deal, were sworn in. And delays caused by the hurricane are threatening to drive up the cost of the $1.3 billion project. So, are the hopes of the Rays and St. Pete Mayor Ken Welch in tatters like the roof of the beloved Trop? To bring you up to speed and to help explain what the community could expect, here's Colleen Wright, who covers St. Pete for the Tampa Bay Times. Welcome back to Florida Matters.
Hi, I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
And I should note we are recording this conversation a few days before Pinellas County Commissioners will decide whether to approve the county share to finance the deal. They're meeting Tuesday, December 17th. WSF News will update you with the latest in this ongoing drama. Colleen, we're going to get to the wrangling over who's paying for this new stadium in a bit, but first, you've been all over the story. I'm wondering what went through your mind when you heard about the Trop getting ripped open by Hurricane Milton.
At that point when the hurricane happened, I had no idea that the chain of events it would set off would be that, because it is kind of like a perfect storm. Mm-hmm. Of course, you know, the city's current agreement with the Rays to play at Tropicana Field goes through 2027, right? But for every year that the team can't play in that dome, the agreement gets extended 1 year. So, for example, if they're out, let's say 2025 and 2026, then now the agreement goes through 2029, right? But the conundrum there is that, are you going to put all this money into replacing a roof that should be demolished in a few years for this plan that was approved with cheers and press conferences back in July? But of course, there was one outstanding thing, and it was just the bond votes to pay for the project. And that hadn't happened yet because of delays from the hurricanes. And then you factor, the commission then voted kind of in the middle of everything to kind of postpone it, to just see what was going to happen, where the Rays were going to play.
And this is the city commission or the county commission?
This is the county
or both?
Commission.
Right.
Yeah, this is the Pinellas County Commission. And from the commissioners I've spoken with, I don't think they realized exactly what was happening when they did that and pushed the vote after the election. And in Pinellas County, how it works is those new commissioners get to join immediately, and then they get to weigh in. And now we don't even know, even repairing the Trop, maybe you can get some more life out of it, but will you even have a team? There's so much up in the air right now.
So to that point, the Rays do at least have a place to play next season while the Trop is out of commission. Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, that's where the New York Yankees do their spring training. But, what is happening to the Trop in the meantime? Is the roof going to get fixed? Because the price tag I've read is about $55 million, and the St. Pete City Council has kind of flip-flopped on chipping in about half of that.
Right. So that figure you mentioned, the 56 million, just right in there, those are for all repairs and that includes the roof, which the roof alone is $24.7 million. And they were going to do these repairs back before Thanksgiving. Everything's such a blur right now. And the city, actually, they had the votes and went ahead to do those repairs, at least just for the roof. But then minutes later, Rays President Brian All told reporters, I was one of them, saying, actually, we'd prefer not to do these repairs right now because the Rays don't believe that those repairs can get done in time for the 2026 season. And also they think that figure, that $56 million figure, is actually too low.
Wow.
So they would rather have the certainty of just not playing there in 26 and at least just figuring out, they've already figured out Steinbrenner for 25 and also doing 26. So after that, the city council heard those comments because they were being reported, called back that vote and actually re-voted on that deal and voted it down. But what the city council did do recently was kind of do the bare minimum, which is spend $1.7 million just for like architectural plans and designs. Right. And some people go, what is that going to help? Well, that matters because it keeps the city in compliance with its contract with the Rays, right? We were talking about that agreement through the end of 2027. It says in that agreement, if the dome can't be used, the city must hire an architect or an engineer to draw up plans within the first 3 months. So their move that the city council did kind of keeps them in compliance in their agreement. So that's just kind of the first step. For the next steps of getting like a guaranteed maximum price and starting on construction, you'll need subsequent votes taken by council. Not sure if that's going to happen.
Yeah. So take us back to November. You have some new Pinellas County commissioners elected. Both the city and county had faced decisions related to back-to-back hurricanes, and that's affecting now decisions about financing this new baseball stadium. So why did it look like Hurricane Milton could be the thing that stops this stadium deal from happening?
Well, when that vote took place, I believe it was October 29th at the county commission. I don't even think commissioners really understood kind of what the stakes were. I mean, even some of the Rays' biggest supporters voted to delay that bond vote. And they just wanted to know kind of what was happening with the Rays and where they would go for 2025. And their argument was if they go play anywhere else but Pinellas County, the tourist dollars that would fund the new stadium, you're taking it with you out of county, right? You're hurting the revenue source that would be paying for your new stadium. That's where the county is getting $312.5 million. It's your surtax on when you stay at a Pinellas County hotel or Airbnb or short-term rental. And that was kind of, they wanted kind of some clarity on that, and they were reeling from the effects of 2 back-to-back hurricanes. But then when they did that, the next time they met was after the election. One current commissioner retired and the other one lost his seat because the vote that took place back in July was 5-2, 5 in favor, 2 against. But those two, the two that I said weren't coming back, were part of that 5, right? So now you're down to 3. You've got 2 more people. You form a new majority of 4. And so ever since then, the bond vote has been delayed. It's been delayed twice now. And when they meet on Tuesday, like you said, we'll see what happens. They could delay again. Or they could vote no. These are commissioners unfriendly to the deal. They don't like the financial terms. They don't like the agreement overall. Or if they have a change of heart and one of them flips, because it'll only take one of those 4. If one commissioner flips, then it's a yes. But that doesn't mean that all is said and done and we have a deal, because the Rays have even said that they went on the record saying we anticipate that someone's actually going to flip, but we still want more money because all these delays from negotiations, from the hurricane, from these delayed bond votes are increasing construction costs, and now we can no longer afford it. So even if the county goes forward with approving bonds, not clear if the Rays are going to hold up their end of the deal, even though part of the deal was the Rays and their development partner Hines would be on the hook for all cost overruns in exchange for, the county and the city are getting no revenue sharing at all. That was kind of the trade-off. The Rays are now on the hook for cost overruns and insurance. Yeah. So unclear. Even though Tuesday might be defining, it really might not. This is not going to be done on Tuesday.
So if you're trying to help somebody understand how the county can be kind of pumping the brakes on this deal when, as you pointed out at the top of our conversation, they'd already had sort of press conferences and celebrating the fact that this is happening. We're, pretty much ready to break ground on this thing after so many years. Essentially, you've got a new commission, so some people who are kind of now not a certainty, and you've got the fact that the deal itself seems to have changed. It's now more expensive than it was.
That's what the Rays are saying. The city council, the way that they've talked about it, is a perceived funding gap. The Rays have not said publicly what the gap is. So do they want...
Is part of it because they don't know? Because, the cost of materials may change the longer you wait?
They have not said publicly. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you do have to factor in that not playing in your home stadium, right, at Tropicana Field. I mean, that's gotta cost you out of pocket, right? And I know that insurance, might kick in and all that, but like, they're gonna have to arrange to play at Steinbrenner, get new employees. I mean, it really throws like every logistic kind of in the mix. And the Rays have said though that the way this deal worked is that they were counting on a windfall of money in 2028 when the stadium, the one agreed upon and celebrated back in July, was going to open in 2028 because you get naming rights sponsorships. You get all these sponsors and all these people are going to come see the new stadium. And the Rays are basically saying, because all these bond votes have been delayed, no way we can open in 2028. Mm-hmm. It'll have to be 2029 at the latest. And that's like a year later from getting paid. But what exactly the gap is and how much more is needed has not been said publicly.
And just to reinforce for people, why exactly has the county commission said this is why we're delaying this bond vote? Because as you've said, they've delayed it a couple of times now. What's been the explanation for that?
So the first time with the current board, and I want to be clear, these bond votes, because of the timing, they were kind of viewed as a formality. Like they would kind of follow along the same voting lines as the first time in July, right? Like for example, on the city council in St. Petersburg, it would be 5-3. Or now that one city council member had to leave because he ran for another office, 4-3, right? And on the county, it would have been 5-2. So it would reason that the bonds would pass the same way, right? 5-2. But the first time, right, in October, it was just kind of uncertainty of where the Rays would play, kind of reeling from back-to-back hurricanes. It was the first time the commission kind of met after Hurricane Milton.
And partly there's some optics, right? If you're thinking about the good of your your constituents, people have voted for you, you're thinking maybe it doesn't look great for a city or a county commission to be saying we're going to be committing public money for this project when a lot of people are out of their homes.
That's certainly like a valid point. I don't remember that specifically being discussed. They might have, but it was more of just like, we just need a pause. And I think it's worth pointing out too that the county side to approve, the county came after the city. Like the city held its votes first in July. Like the city delayed the process a lot. And, so the county was saying like, we should just take a breather. I mean, and again, even commissioners who've been for the deal, for example, Janet Long, in her last meeting as a county commissioner, voted to delay. So all but one person, Charlie Justice, who also lost his seat to a new commissioner who does not like the deal, or he's the only one really who did, Janet Long retired, thought that it was good to just take a pause. And then the second delay was due to new county commissioners coming on, and that was also like their first meeting as commissioners. And some commissioners thought it wasn't fair that they would have to make such a consequential decision on their first day on the job, but also they were kind of reading the tea leaves and counting votes and saying, this isn't there. We don't want to risk a no vote because what happens when you try to build a $1.3 billion stadium and you have a $312.5 million hole? So people don't want to risk that, and it got pushed again. So we'll see what happens. But again, not done.
So a lot of this is kind of coming from the county commission, but what impact has that now had on the city? I mean, as you pointed out, they had sort of delayed things a little bit initially, but then it seemed like the holdout, and this was back in the summer, was maybe the county. That could have been the hold up to the plan. But now with this kind of turmoil going on, sort of with the county saying we're sort of pumping the brakes a little bit here, what impact has that had on the city's thinking on this deal?
Sure. So the city also, I just want to say, has the more complicated part of the deal, because not only are they contributing toward the stadium, but they also are paying for like the roads and sewers and the infrastructure behind the historic gas plant district, and also the sale of 65 acres of public land right in downtown. That's part of the deal. The Rays and Hines would get that land at a significant discount. We've talked about it on the show. That's not the county's deal, though. So, like, the county's portion of things is very simple. So the county wasn't really holding anything up back in July. That was more just complications on the city's end. But now, the county's kind of in a position because the city council, after one delay on the bonds, did go ahead and approve the bonds 4-3. And that kind of put it on the county. And there's two schools of thought here of, even if you don't like the deal, maybe you want to kind of call the Rays on their bluff, because the Rays have been saying publicly that there is no deal, right? That they can't afford the cost overruns and we're going to need more money. And just because you approve this doesn't mean we're going to go forward. However, the only party in these agreements between the city, the county, and the Rays who could officially terminate is the Rays. So if the county does not put forth the funding, the Rays, for example, get to keep all that land. And you might have a situation where you might develop land but not have a stadium. That's what I'm saying. It's unclear. It's just not clear at all. But if the county goes ahead and says, okay, you know what? We've changed our mind. We're going to approve these bonds. Then it kind of puts it on the Rays to either be all in or officially pull out. And that would just kind of cancel the entire deal. It would be on them. But if the county doesn't, then the Rays get to keep the land. And then, again, no clear kind of outcome. So that's kind of where we're at. It's like this idea of like calling the bluff on the Rays and if they will actually move forward.
You're listening to Florida Matters and a conversation with Colleen Wright with the Tampa Bay Times, talking about the Tampa Bay Rays' plans for a new ballpark. More coming up. You're listening to Florida Matters. I'm Matthew Petty, and you're hearing from Colleen Wright. Wright covers the city of St. Petersburg for the Tampa Bay Times, and she's giving us the play-by-play on the Tampa Bay Rays' plans for a new ballpark and how Hurricane Milton may have punched a hole in those plans when it tore the roof off Tropicana Field. So, Colleen, if there's a green light from Pinellas County Commissioners to help finance the stadium, what I'm sensing is that that doesn't necessarily mean the way is clear for the Rays to break ground. So, talk us through what else could derail the plan and what should people be watching for?
A lot hinges on what the county commission does, but it's uncertainty either way. Either the Rays, if it passes, do the Rays uphold their end of the deal and go forward? Do we maybe see some more negotiation? Not clear. I think maybe if the county approves the bonds, that road is a little clearer, but the Rays are saying they don't have a deal. But at least at that point, if they really don't have a deal, it's on them. Everything's been done. The city's passed bonds, the county's passed bonds. Then it's on the Rays to kind of put up or shut up, either go through or officially terminate. If not, if Pinellas County Commission does not do it, unclear. I've tried asking Mayor Ken Welch about it. It's possible that you could build a historic gas plant, but the Rays could turn around. There's no restrictions or approvals needed for the Rays and Hines to turn around and sell that land to someone else, make a profit. And maybe this goes to court. I'm not saying anybody's mentioned that. I cannot be here and say people have threatened lawsuits. That has not happened. But potentially, I guess the Rays may argue these aren't cost overruns. You all have delayed this. And, I don't know if this ends up in court or not. But things get a lot fuzzier, and there's a real possibility that you would lose Major League Baseball without this deal, or at least in St. Pete or Pinellas. And I don't know, if they would maybe take that land and sell it and it would fund, a stadium somewhere else. I mean, this is just pure speculation. It's just very unclear. But the Rays are saying, even if it passes, and we anticipate that it will, we still need more money. But Mayor Ken Welch has said, not another dime. The chairperson-elect of the county commission, who's now the vice chair, has said, not another dime. So will there be negotiations? I mean, it really, truly is like the Wild West. I wish I had a crystal ball.
Could the Rays find money from elsewhere if the city and the county, if for some reason that they don't come through with the public financing part of this piece?
Maybe. Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred was actually in town talking with Pinellas County Commissioners, meeting with Mayor Ken Welch, reiterating his support of the deal. Manfred of Major League Baseball has said, we support the fans in Tampa Bay, and he supports a franchise here. So I don't know if that means money from Major League Baseball. I don't know if that means Manfred's kind of like sweet-talking local officials to get them to give more, or see okay, maybe there's some negotiation, the city and the county want this, and in exchange we can get that. I don't know the details of those conversations. They were closed-door meetings. But it's possible, and Manfred is weighing in, and I don't know if he's exactly working in concert with the Rays or at all. That's another interesting dynamic, because at the beginning, when the Rays were saying we can't afford this and this deal is essentially dead, Manfred was saying money issues can be, I'm paraphrasing him, but he was saying money issues can be resolved. We can work something out. St. Petersburg Mayor Ken Welch has said, you could get with the private sector and do sponsorships and all that, which, maybe that's the case. I would imagine they've been doing that maybe all along, but who knows? I don't know if the team looks at other owners. I'm not sure what exactly the path forward is, or who exactly is going to kind of plug that quote unquote perceived funding gap, because again, we don't know how much more they want.
The fact, though, that you do have the MLB commissioner in town and talking with the key players, what does that tell you about the importance of this deal to the MLB and to kind of make this thing work?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I want to say that the mayor, this is just off the top of my head, I think Mayor Ken Welch has spoken with Manfred, but this is probably last year maybe, so it's not like a constant communication. But certainly, since I've been covering this deal, and I've been covering the city of St. Petersburg for 3.5 years, I think this is the first time that Manfred's really weighed in on the negotiations. I feel like he's mostly left it between the Rays and the city and the county. But he wants to see a deal done. But what that looks like, what they discussed, I don't know if it was just winning votes or maybe negotiating more. Unclear. I think Tuesday is going to be very revelatory, or at least paint some clearer path forward. But it is certainly interesting, and the optimism level has gone from non-existent to back up to unsure. It's just been all over the place.
A wild ride. I mean, there is a lot riding on this for St. Pete Mayor Ken Welch. It's not just a baseball stadium for him. It's a chance for the city to redeem the wrongs done to the black community when the historic gas plant neighborhood was razed to make way for the Trop. So what has the mayor been saying over the last few months as the Rays, the city and the county haggle over these details?
Mayor Welch has expressed unwavering optimism. He thinks that this is a 30-year deal full of economic promises and jobs and keeps the team here and builds residences, has a new home for the Woodson African American Museum of Florida. There's a lot riding on this that he thinks that benefits everyone. It benefits the city, it benefits the county, and that he believes that cooler heads will prevail and they'll see the economic promise of this. And he believes it'll happen. He was on the Pinellas County Commission.
Mm-hmm.
He spent 20 years. It looks different now than when he was on it. And he's been talking with commissioners too and trying to talk to them as well. Maybe some he's won over. I know at least one he hasn't. But he's been trying to work it too. But yeah, his political career is staked on this as well. I mean, this is all his idea, really. He designed the request for proposals to have this in the first place. He scrapped the RFP and the choice of his predecessor, Mayor Rick Kreisman, who kind of had lined up a developer to build a ballpark, build kind of a vision there at the Trop site with or without the Rays. So there's a lot riding this. There's easily 3 years has gone into this. So we'll see if that work counts or if it doesn't, or really what comes out of it.
Would redeveloping that land without a baseball stadium capture the vision that Welch has for the old gas plant neighborhood?
I don't know, because, maybe it will, maybe it won't. They've said since the beginning, when I mean they mean the city, and I also mean the Rays and their development partner, Hines. Hines has been very clear that the Rays are the anchor tenant needed. And the city said this too, that sure, you could go ahead and develop that land. That land is worth a lot of money. It's in the middle of downtown St. Pete. You've got a lot of activity right around it. You could build anything there. But it's been said, the city says we need an anchor tenant. That will help. Hines has said, when we got the first RFP under Kreisman, we threw it in the trash. I remember Michael Harrison of Hines saying that. And he was like, we also believe that there should be an anchor tenant. But what happens if they don't? If Major, if this falls apart and there is no deal, Major League Baseball leaves town? I don't know. Maybe you do have a historic gas plant. It's possible that it goes through as planned, but that's unclear.
Mm-hmm. You've been covering the story in detail for some time. It's complicated. The story is going to be evolving for months, if not years. For people who aren't watching every move, or maybe people who feel like they're experiencing whiplash every new headline that comes out, what and who do they need to be paying attention for?
Right now, the Pinellas County Commission. And after that, it'll be on the Rays. And I guess we'll be, depending on what happens, I don't know if we're going to be on official, termination letter watch, which we were for a while, right, when things are very bad. And, Rays President Brian Auld was saying there's no deal. The city administrator for St. Pete said, okay, well, we expect a termination letter from you. And the chairperson of the county commission, who is for the deal, sent the Rays a letter saying, you need to tell us what your intentions are. You need to make those intentions clear. So you either say that you're in or send a termination letter. And this is like the week of Thanksgiving. And the day after Thanksgiving, the Rays wrote back and said all agreements are in effect. It was a change of tone. They weren't super clear, but they didn't send a letter. So then kind of optimism goes up, right? But the Rays are still saying we need more money. So after the county commission decides, that's step one. Step two will be what the Rays do. Because again, only the Rays have the power to truly terminate this agreement. But it can always be figured out or brokered or settled. There could be a settlement. And then, this is right concerning 2020 and beyond. Remember, you still have the current use agreement and what's going to happen to the Trop in place too. So a lot of moving factors, and they're all kind of separate, but they do come together to form this crazy jigsaw. And, but yeah, I would say county first, Rays second.
So you're looking at all of the disparate pieces of this. What are the potential outcomes you're thinking about for the city of St. Pete and for the future of baseball in the area and, just Tampa Bay in general?
Maybe there's a world where things proceed as they were expected to in July. Maybe some things get hashed out on the negotiating floor and then everyone's happy and celebrating again. Maybe there's a 300, maybe the county votes no and there's a $300 million deal. I don't know. Maybe, the land gets sold, the Rays and Hines sell this land and it funds someplace else in Tampa or elsewhere. The Rays relocate. I don't know. I mean, I think it is fair to say that, the future of Major League Baseball in Tampa Bay is at risk. And it's just, like I mentioned, a perfect storm of factors. Had the Trop not been shredded, might have helped, by the hurricane. Had hurricanes not come and delayed the votes. Had those things not happened, had it not been an election year, you'd probably be totally fine right now. It's literally the fact that it was an election year, the fact that the hurricanes happened around the election and pushed, these votes, they were delayed right after, so they could have had it before, but they didn't. So it's like a perfect storm of the hurricane happening, of the Trop getting destroyed, and of new commissioners being elected. And again, had this been another year, no hurricane, there's a lot of other ways where this might not have happened. And I think in July, everyone thought it was just all good because these votes would be seen as a formality. Mm-hmm. But time obviously told that no, that was not going to be the case. And this saga that I know so many people, this has been going on for 17 years. That's the first time that the Rays looked at a forever home. They were looking at a stadium right near Al Lang on the water right in downtown St. Pete. That was 2007. So this has been going on for 17 years. And right when people thought that we're at the end, we're at the light at the end of the tunnel, the Rays were looking at parking plans and how everybody was going to fit on the Tropicana Field site when the lots right next to the stadium were going to be a construction site, and where was everyone going to park? A hurricane happens. 2 hurricanes happen. And that kind of refocuses priorities. So perfect storm that extends the never-ending story of the Rays in pursuit of their forever home in Tampa Bay.
Well, Colleen Wright, a reporter covering the city of St. Petersburg for the Tampa Bay Times, thank you so much for your insights.
Thanks for having me.
And that's our show for this week. Florida Matters executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Engineering support from Gio Garvin. Subscribe to Florida Matters wherever you get your podcasts and watch on WUSF's YouTube channel. I'm Matthew Petty. Thank you for listening.